Many of the viewers saw my questions of the Chancellor of the City University of New York. It was a disgrace to hear his responses. Not only did he hire a chief diversity officer who previously worked for CARE, a pro-terrorist organization, he refused to fire that individual. On top of that, there were numerous examples where there was no disciplinary action taken against CUNY staff who failed to protect Jewish students on campus. You saw the example of the swastika that was hanging on the main building at Hunter College, and yet you had a CUNY administrator refuse to take it down for hours and say, apologies, this is a complex issue. It is not a complex issue. The reality is CUNY and New York State's Democrat leadership has failed. I am calling on Governor Hochul, the worst governor in America, who has bent the knee to the anti-Semites in her party, to call on Chancellor Rodriguez to resign. She needs to make that call today. She controls the Board of Trustees, which hires and fires the Chancellor, so she needs to show strong moral leadership, which she has failed to do to date, to call on him to resign. I'm so honored to be joined by Councilwoman Vernikov, who is one of the strongest fighters we have standing up for her constituents, speaking out against anti-Semitism, and help prepare and share student stories with this committee today. And I want to turn it over to my good friend, Ina.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. Thank you so much for inviting me to join you here today. Of course, I don't have to say this, you all know that the Congresswoman has been a leading voice against anti-Semitism in our country, and she has been instrumental in making and bringing about change to the rot that Ivy Leagues have become. I'm here to talk a little bit about the CUNY Chancellor and the City University of New York. The entire testimony today was a disgrace. It started with a lie when the Chancellor said there is no place for anti-Semitism at CUNY. Well, let me tell you, based on 4 years of me being in office and looking at what's going on at City University of New York, talking to students, having dozens upon dozens of students testify, anti-Semitism very much lives at the City University of New York. It started way before October 7th, and before October 7th, things have been egregious at these college campuses. There are 26 campuses in the City University of New York. Students have been harassed. Students have been unable to express their Jewish identity safely in these classrooms. They have been shunned. They have been shamed. It has been a disgrace. But after October 7th, it has become progressively worse, where we have DEI administrators that are the problem, where we have violent encampments, where we have students assaulted. Police is not allowed on these campuses a lot of the times. They're told to stand down. At the CCNY encampment, there were $3 million in damages caused to CUNY property. This is all taxpayer dollars that we're talking about here. And the Chancellor has done nothing. He comes here, he comes to a city council hearing, he comes to this hearing, and he says nice things, and it sounds all nice, but there is no action. The professors he's talking about that were fired, when were they fired? A couple of days ago, only after the Chancellor got an invite to this hearing right here. Aside from that, there's been no meaningful action. All we've been getting is lip service. And I today joined the call of the Congresswoman on the Chancellor to go back to New York City, go to his desk, and draft up a letter of resignation. I have here a letter signed by a bipartisan coalition of elected officials from New York asking the governor to remove the Chancellor. She has known about this for years. In fact, she's the one who engaged Judge Lippman to investigate anti-Semitism at CUNY. He did a very thorough investigation. He issued a report over a year ago, so she has known about this, and as the Congresswoman said, the governor has the control of the CUNY board. She has 10 appointees. With one phone call, she can make sure the Chancellor gets removed. We need competent leadership. The Chancellor is unwilling and unable to address anti-Semitism and protect his Jewish students. And by the way, just to know, the Democrats, it is the Democrats that are busy endorsing and supporting somebody like Zohran Mamdani, who may very well become the mayor of New York City. He's an anti-Semite, he's anti-Israel, he's anti-American. And while the Democrats are doing that, Republicans are fighting anti-Semitism on behalf of Jewish Americans every single day, and we're going to continue to do that.
Any questions from New York reporters first, and please identify the outlet you're with.
Kevin. Yes.
Kevin Fry,
Hi,
Inspector.
Congresswoman, so I mean, in response to this hearing, like, what exactly legislatively can you do here in Washington that you think would be fitting? And quite frankly, given what you just said, are you any closer to making an announcement as to what your plans are?
Well, Kevin, we have done a lot in Washington. Look at the actions from the Trump administration to rein in these universities. The federal dollars is a way to force these universities to comply with civil rights laws, which they have not been complying by. They have not protected Jewish students on campus. If you look back to that historic hearing in December of 2023 with the presidents of Penn, MIT, and Harvard, it was that hearing that set off this earthquake that was long overdue in higher education. So whether it's funding, whether it's strengthening our support for protecting Jewish students on campus, whether it's combating anti-Semitism, we've taken a number of steps from Congress to hold them accountable. Who has not taken steps is Democrats in New York, led by Kathy Hochul. This scourge of anti-Semitism has skyrocketed on her watch. She has failed to hold them accountable. She has allowed failed leaders like the Chancellor of CUNY to stay in these positions when they have failed to protect Jewish students. So again, actions speak louder than words. Obviously, all these university presidents who come before Congress are very prepped up, they are lawyered up beforehand, but it doesn't make up for their failed leadership and their failed actions, and that was on display today. The fact that you have CUNY's Chancellor claim unawareness of the CLEAR, which is the legal clinic affiliated with CUNY, play the legal defense role for Mahmoud Khalil, and he refuses to condemn that and says he doesn't know. That is disgraceful and it is unacceptable. When it comes to challenging Governor Kathy Hochul, I'm getting a lot of encouragement across New York State, not just from Republicans, but independents and Democrats as well. We have local elections coming up this year. As you and I have discussed, I'm very focused on making sure that Republicans do well this election cycle to lay the groundwork for saving New York and firing Kathy Hochul once and for all. And my question for Kathy Hochul is, why have you not condemned Zohran Mamdani's raging anti-Semitism? It's because you're bending the knee to the anti-Semites that control New York's Democratic Party. Kathy Hochul needs to show leadership. She needs to call on this chancellor to resign. She needs to fire him today.
What do you mean? There's been some allegations that the Embassy of Qatar was made aware of what was going to happen in this hearing, specifically by Representative McClain. Is this concerning to you that, Qatar, which is, known to foster Hamas, has been made aware of what was going to be discussed in this hearing ahead of time?
So I'm not familiar with the specific allegations, but I can tell you I am very familiar with foreign funding flowing into these universities, and I'm deeply concerned. I have been a leader when it comes to passing legislation called the Deterrent Act, closing the loopholes when it comes to foreign dollars flowing into our universities. We cannot let foreign nations prop up anti-Semitism. We cannot let foreign nations prop up anti-Americanism, which has proven to be the case in many of these institutions, whether it's Qatari money flowing into Middle Eastern studies programs, or whether it's money from the Communist Chinese Party propping up Confucius Institute. So my focus is on legislatively leading to make sure that our universities reflect American values. So we will continue to hold folks accountable for the foreign dollars, especially if they're not disclosing those foreign dollars.
Congresswoman, President Trump's plan to reduce the size of the federal Department of Education, the Supreme Court gave him a major win yesterday on that. How do you think that's going to impact this issue? There is an Office of Civil Rights that is largely going to be closed now. It seems like this issue is very important to you. Do you think the solution to anti-Semitism is to close the Department of Ed, essentially?
The solution to anti-Semitism is moral leadership. We saw under Joe Biden's failed leadership, and we saw that the Department of Education refused to do investigations into these institutions. We also saw that these higher ed institutions would not fix themselves. They had failed to show any leadership when it came to protecting Jewish students on campus and really looking at the root causes, whether it's the faculty, the failed governance structure, the foreign dollars flowing into these universities, the anti-Semitic coursework, the list goes on. I fully support President Trump making sure that we're focusing on America First education policy. It needs to be localized, and the way to hold these universities accountable is through the purse strings. New Yorkers do not want to be funding anti-Semitism. hardworking taxpayers that I represent, that Ina represents, they do not want to fund organizations like CUNY who fail to protect Jewish students. We need to demand better from our higher ed institutions. So if funding is the way to get their response, then that is a tool we should use.
Just to follow up, you don't think there will be any negative impact on civil rights generally by closing the Department of Ed and putting that responsibility in the hands of state education boards?
I strongly support President Trump's position when it comes to localizing education policy. What have we seen from the Department of Education at the federal level? It has failed significantly. Frankly, it's very similar to the dynamics that we see in New York State. New York State's Department of Education has perpetuated anti-Semitism, whether it was their affiliations with Regents preparation materials, which were by definition anti-Semitic. Education decisions, number one, are best made first by parents, then by local communities, and then by local school boards, not unelected bureaucrats. So certainly I support President Trump's actions in holding these universities accountable, which is happening as a result of our oversight work in Congress. And I'm going to continue to lead on this issue. Kathy Hochul has failed to lead. I will continue to lead on this issue and set the tone for zero tolerance when it comes to anti-Semitism in New York and in this country. Other questions? Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you,
Ina,
Councilwoman.
for joining us.